Hey, this is Michael Vaughn here. Hey, this is Mike Vaughn, and welcome to another tier ranking video. So I'm going to be doing the first in, I hope, a lot of like franchise tier ranking videos. This one's obviously not going to be very long, and as I explained in my other tier ranking video, these are a little bit more rough and ready. I don't really edit these a whole lot. I just want to kind of give you my unfiltered, unvarnished opinions. And yeah, so I tried to make these a little bit more clever. Obviously, it's pretty self explanatory, best to worst. And with that, let's dive in. So, I mean, Scream, obviously, like, has to be up here. It's hard to just. It's hard to really overstate just how revolutionary this film was. Like, it certainly wasn't the first like meta horror film, but I think it was the first to really not be a parody of slashers like we've seen before with like Student Bodies and things like that. But it remained a legitimate, amazing slasher, but it also had this at times humorous, but again, very smart take. And I'm not going to go uh, too in depth about Scream. Everybody knows why this movie is so awesome. So the sequel is really great. I don't. I know some people that prefer the sequel over the first film, but I'm just going to put this in Randy's top video store picks. Scream's a great sequel, or Scream 2. Yeah, I loved going with the obviously satirizing sequels. That's a lot of fun. But I also really like it being a little bit smarter doing the whole college slasher movie, but then also Randy goes on a bit of a checklist of other slasher set in colleges. And I thought that was kind of a fun way to sort of tie in the meta humor without it being maybe a little bit too obvious. So yeah, and I love this killer. I'm not going to spoil it if you somehow haven't seen that already, but yeah, it's pretty good. Now, most people don't like Scream 3, and I agree that it's not maybe the best. I kind of might put it here. It's not the worst, really. And I don't know, even if I rank something like Dead Last on here, I legitimately feel like even with some of the weaker entries, we've never had like a truly terrible Scream movie. Like, it's one of the few horror franchises that really is largely consistent as far as like quality. Again, it's a little bit all over the place, but I think consistently it's at the least very entertaining. So Scream 4 is one I waffle on a lot. And I was trying to think a little bit of like where I wanted to put this. I would say probably very mid for me. Um Kind of frankly speaking, Scream 4 doesn't really feel very much kind of like a Scream movie. I mean in a way it does, but it never has a really strong sort of thesis behind it. Like some of the other films, like Scream 2 talking about sequels, or maybe the later films talking about like requels or toxic fandom. Like all of that is really timely, interesting stuff. I mean, I guess the main conceit is like reboots, but I don't know if that's just strong enough to really carry the whole film. I will say there's a lot of really interesting ideas. I mean, especially how this was so ahead of its time as far as live streaming and victim culturalization. So that's kind of what keeps me from ranking it a little bit lower. Is it does have a lot of really interesting things going on. Kirby is such a great character. Obviously, she's going to come back up again. It's so interesting with Scream 4 though, because it's one where I feel like there's a ton of people that love it. There's a ton of people that hate it. I just think, like I said, obviously it's just kind of middle of the road for me. Scream or Scream 5, I had to say, I think I probably ranked this pretty high. I loved it. I thought it was such a amazing way to again recontextualize like what's going on in horror, which Scream is always such a great sort of springboard for. And the whole Ryan Johnson Star Wars The Force Awakens requel kind of thing, I think is a strong enough vehicle to really propel this sequel forward. The characters are great. I so this will tie into the next film, but I absolutely love how Sydney and Gail's storyline concludes pretty beautifully because because Nev Campbell's role in the franchise is still very much in flux, shall we say. Having her in this, I don't know, for my money, makes it feel even more special. Um, since it's not a given that she's going to be in every one of these films. So I hope this isn't her last go around in Scream. I really think that, like, if it was, this wouldn't be a horrible swan song. I mean, she's out there with, I guess it's strongly implied that she's with Mark Kincaid and she's got some kids and she's living her best life. So I love that for her. I like this one a great deal. I love the characters. Mindy as the new Randy is perfection. That's not up for debate. I love her character. I also really like again the layering of like toxic fandom and that being sort of like maybe a little bit of a meta reaction to Scream itself is really interesting, really timely. So yeah, it's up here. So Scream 6 is really interesting because if you would have asked me as soon as I saw it, I probably would have ranked it maybe like over here, but I'm probably going to say it's down here. It's my least favorite. And like I said, keep in mind, I knew this wasn't going to be a very interesting tier ranking. There's only 6 films, and they're all pretty consistently um, good. Again, shades of that, but yeah, unfortunately, I just think that Scream 6 is just not very good. It feels very rushed. The gaps in logic are just crazy pants. I know I talked about this in my tier ranking for the video or the movies from last year, but yeah, I'll just sum up and say Gail's arc's completely undone. Of course, Nev Campbell didn't return as Sydney. And honestly, I kind of don't think the storyline and the framework itself is strong enough to really sustain this movie. And like the killer reveal is probably my least favorite, even worse than Scream 3's. Like that one wasn't great, but I don't know. This one I think was even worse. Like I see where they were going with it, and I'm trying to speak kind of vaguely in the off chance that you whoever's watching this maybe hasn't seen it yet, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, it's just it doesn't make sense, like the killer reveal. Um it's not well set up. It's just feels sloppy. The whole thing, there's just so many needless um plot threads. I don't know. It's again, this one, if you had to have maybe a core thesis, it would be sort of like armchair detectives, which I think on paper is an interesting idea as a springboard for like a Scream movie because um as you know they point out in Scream 5, you know, screams are at its core you know, slasher whodunits. And yeah, so that would seem like a really like obvious fit. But this the central idea, they never really take it far enough to be interesting. Um, the more I watch it, and the more I think about it, the more like even just core plot elements don't really make a lot of sense. It just again, I think it's symptomatic of it feels very rushed. And from all accounts, the production was very rushed. So I don't know. And now there's a whole lot of drama about the next film and who's returning, who's not returning. Honestly, I think that if we're gonna really have this franchise like survive, I think we need another big shakeup. But yeah, unfortunately, there are things I like about this movie, but it's just yeah, it's my least favorite. Also, the New York setting was completely wasted, in my opinion. So yeah. So that is my Scream tier ranking video. Again, I wanted this to be less scripted, a little more off the cuff. And let me know if you kind of like that format. I mean, I know as someone that likes watching tier ranking videos, it's always a little bit more fun when it's, like I said, a little bit more rough and ready. I do want to cover a little bit more expansive franchises in the future, like Friday the 13th or Halloween. I might do those like obviously fall for like Halloween, but like maybe the next Friday the 13th for that, obviously. But like, I want to do more franchises and maybe mix it up with some like other maybe obscure horror titles, but that are easy to find or stream. So let me know what. Let me know in the comments like what would your tier ranking be? Like what screams your favorite? What's the worst? Tell me I'm wrong about something, just please keep it civil because this is just for fun. Not everybody's going to share the same opinion. That's fine. And please consider subscribing. I'm trying to upload at least 3 videos a week. And I have some really interesting video series that are coming up. So you don't want to miss that. And I will see you in the next video.